We are continuing our work modeling fraction division. This is example 5, 1 1/2. This dividend is being divided by the divisor 2/5. Now, the first thing that I notice is that we have a mixed number. I would like for us to change mixed numbers to improper fractions. So to do that, I'm going to grab my scribble tool, change colors, and show that the first step is to multiply the whole number 1 by the denominator 2. And that gives me 2. Then I add the numerator to that. So I add 1 and I get 3. So 2 plus 1 is 3. That's the numerator. And then the denominator remains a 2, so it stays a 2. So this denominator stays the same. So 1 1/2 is equivalent to 3/2. Now I don't need to change the 2/5, so I'll just bring this 2/5 down. So the divisor remains 2/5. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the questions we're supposed to be thinking about. How many times does 2/5 fit into 3/2? So how many times does 2/5 fit into 3/2? Another way to say the same question would be, we could say, how many groups of size 2/5 go into 3/2? So now let's go ahead and go over to our app, and I'm going to go ahead and select 3/2. So there's a half, there's 2/2, there's 3/2, that's the dividend. And we're dividing that by the divisor 2/5. So here's a 5th, this lime green color, and we need 2/5. Now the problem with taking 3/2 and dividing it by 2/5 is that these are not the same size pieces. So what we need to do is we need to convert these fractions into fractions that have the same denominator. So we're working with the same size pieces. So I'm going to start by recording these two fractions vertically. So I'll write 3/2 and I'll write 2/5. And we need to figure out the least common multiple between 2 and 5, or you could say the least common denominator. Really, it's the same concept. So what we can do is we can record the multiples of 2, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. I'm going to stop there. Usually if you have 5 or 6 multiples, that's enough. All right, then I'm going to start with the multiples of 5. Start recording the multiples of 5. 5, 10, 15, 20. And I can actually stop because I already notice that the smallest multiple that they have in common is a 10. Look before the 10, there's nothing else that they have in common. So 10 is my least common multiple, or my smallest multiple that they have in common. You could also call this the least common denominator, so the smallest denominator that they have in common. Now, we need to think about 5 is being multiplied by what to give us 10? Well, 5 you can multiply by 2 to get 10. And whatever you multiply the denominator by, you also multiply the numerator by. So if I multiply 5 times 2, I multiply the numerator by 2 as well to get this equivalent fraction. So 2/5 is equal to 4/10. They look different, but they are the same amount. Okay, what do we multiply 2 by to get to 10? Well, you multiply 2 by 5 to get to 10. So if I multiply the denominator by 5, I need to multiply the numerator by 5 as well to create an equivalent fraction. So 3/2 is equal to 15/10. So next what I'm going to do is I'll select another color and I'll show that I'm replacing 3/2. I'm getting rid of 3/2 and I'm replacing it with what it's equivalent to. 3/2 is equivalent to 15/10. I'll record my division symbol, and then let me grab a different color. I think this one might show up better. And now we're replacing 2/5 with what 2/5 is equivalent to. 2/5 is equivalent to 4/10. And now here's my new problem. 15/10 divided by 4/10. So I'll go back to the model, and I need to grab 15/10. So 1, 2, 3. I'm going to pause so you don't have to watch me do this. All right, take a look. I placed my 15/10, and guess what? 15/10 is perfectly equal to 3/2, which is what we said. We said 3/2 is the same as 15/10. Now we said that 2/5 is equal to 4/10. So let me grab 4/10. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And look, that lines up perfectly with 2/5. Now let me take a screenshot, and I'm just going to take a screenshot of the tenths. And I went ahead and I added this picture. And now I'm going to go ahead and go to my rectangle, and I'm going to think about how many groups of size 4/10 go into 15/10. So there's one group of 4/10. There's two groups of 4/10. 3 groups of 4/10, and look, we don't quite have another set. So I'm going to start by typing that we have, this will be our quotient, our answer. We have, I can see, 3 sets. 1, 2, 3 sets of 4/10. And then we have a little bit extra. So let's see how much extra that we have. So we have almost 4 sets. Think about it this way. Let me go back to the scribble tool. I have 1, 2, 3 pieces out of a whole group is made up of 1, 2, 3, 4/10. So I have 3/10 out of the 4/10 that I need to make another group. If I colored it in, okay, I have 1, 2, 3 pieces. I have 1, 2, 3 out of the 4 pieces I need to form another group. So the extra fraction that I have is I have 3 pieces out of the 4 pieces that I need from this group. So 2/5 goes into 1 1/2, 3 3/4 times. So this is the answer, this is the quotient, 3 3/4.